What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another Pitching Ninja's filthiest pitches of the day. Remember, before we get to those pitches, hit that subscribe button. Join Ninja Nation. We have the biggest and best daily baseball show on YouTube and need you on board. So hit subscribe, and without further ado, here are my filthiest pitches of the day. I'm going to start with Dean Kramer, who had this sick sweeper. And I love this ISO view of the sweeper because you can see the seam orientation of the pitch. And those seams help cause seam-shifted wake, which makes the pitch move a little more than expected. If you want to know more about seam-shifted wake, be sure to check out my interview with Barton Smith, aerospace engineering professor.
What you need in order to make this happen is the ball to look asymmetric somehow. And the four seam is as symmetric as you can get. There's stuff just flying all over the place. So two seamers tend to be seam-shifted. If I just throw the two seamers straight like that with my fingers right down the middle, it'll do a bit of seam shifted wake. It'll move a little bit extra to the arm side. If I am more clever and I have that, you see that ball is a little bit off center, I can make it go more so. And so that's what I think the difference between the ones that work really well and the ones that work less well.
Kramer also had this elevated fastball and painted 91-mile-an-hour fastball and had 4 strikeouts in 5 2/3 innings, giving up 3 runs. He battled Chase Silseth, who had 5 Ks in 4 1/3 innings, giving up 4 runs, and had this 95-mile-an-hour paint and this nasty splitter. Lance Lynn had 7 Ks in 7 innings, giving up only 1 earned run, and had this cutter and elevated 2-seamer. But of course, the real highlights were Lance Lynn's K-struts. He had this one where I think he goes, "You bitch." Lance has a unique way with words, and then had this Leslie Chow from The Hangover crotch grab K-strut. He faced Shane Bieber, who had 4 Ks in 4 2/3 innings, but not his best game because he gave up 5 earned runs. He did have this nasty slider and knuckle curve. Brady Singer had 3 Ks in 6 innings, giving up 2 earned runs, and had these sliders and got a sword. Christian Javier had 5 Ks in 6 innings, thanks to his elevated fastballs and slider. And he faced Justin Steele, who wasn't as sharp as he's been, but had 8 Ks in 6 innings, but gave up 5 runs. He had these fastballs and slider. Luis Castillo had this cheese at the knees, and these wicked sliders and changeups. He had 6 Ks in 5 innings, but gave up 5 earned runs. Nick Pivetta had 6 Ks in 5 1/3 innings, giving up 4 earned runs, and had this slider and sword, and this elevated curveball and K-strut. Justin Verlander had this 87-mile-an-hour dirty slider and this 95-mile-an-hour fastball. I like this from the home plate view. Gives you a real feel for how fast 95 is. He had 3 Ks in 5 innings, but gave up 6 earned runs. Zach Wheeler had these 6 sliders and 98-mile-an-hour fastball and had 8 Ks in 6 innings. Alex Cobb had this filthy curveball and 2-seamer. Look at the movement on that. He had 3 Ks in 3 1/3 innings, but gave up 5 walks. Brandon Williamson was sharp with this slider and changeup. He had 6 Ks in 5 2/3 innings, giving up 1 earned run. And he battled Chase Anderson, who had 3 Ks in 5 innings, giving up no runs and only 1 hit, and had this 2-seamer and sword. Dane Dunning had this 93-mile-an-hour paint. Tommy Henry had this curveball and changeup and had 4 Ks in 4 2/3 innings. Did give up 4 runs. Michael Lorenzen threw 6 scoreless innings with 7 Ks thanks to his fastball, changeup, and slider. He faced Luis Ortiz, who had this slider and 3 Ks in 3 innings, giving up 4 runs. Jordan Montgomery had these dirty curveballs and changeup and had 7 Ks in 5 1/3 innings, giving up 3 runs. Jesus Luzardo had 7 Ks in 6 innings, giving up 1 earned run, and had these nasty changeup, sliders, and fastballs. His ERA this year is now 3.16. And he faced off against Josiah Gray, who had 5 Ks in 7 innings, giving up only 1 earned run, and this curveball and slider. His ERA this year is now 2.73. Bailey Ober had these changeups on his way to 6 Ks in 6 innings, giving up only 1 run. He faced off against Clayton Kershaw, who had 7 Ks in 4 innings, giving up 2 earned runs, and had this slider, and also had these absolutely gorgeous Cooperstown curves. Got a sword on one, and had this absolutely beautiful curveball that got the knee buckle. And I love this with Joe Davis in the booth trying to guess what Clayton Kershaw is going to throw here. And he crosses everybody up.
So what do we think's coming right here?
I think there's pretty good chances of breaking ball, huh? One of the two. Slider of that curve. 2-2. It is a fastball.
In the marquee matchup of the day, Domingo Herman had these adhesive curveballs. And here's an overlay of his curveball with his fastball that shows you why you'd get a swing at a curveball out of the zone. But of course, as I alluded to, the biggest story with Herman was his sticky hands. Yes, again. James Hoy called up the stickiest hands he's ever felt and said his fingers had a hard time coming off his palm. Of course, it doesn't look like he's having that hard a time getting his fingers off his palm. His hand isn't like that Jack Sparrow meme. And the stickiest hands we ever felt was the same line that Phil Cuzzy's crew gave when they ejected Max Scherzer. The Yankees and Blue Jays sure have some bad blood going. I love this from John Schneider saying, "Sit down, fat boy." Not exactly sure who he's talking to here. I wouldn't call Aaron Boone fat. Herman dueled yesterday's filthiest starter of the day, Kevin Gausman. Gausman had 10 Ks in 7 innings, giving up 2 earned runs. And those 10 Ks helped me win my K parlay yesterday. Gausman had his filthy mix of splitters. I mean, these things are wicked. And upper 90s fastballs. And here's an overlay of his splitter and fastball. And you can see why when Kevin Gausman is on, he is one of the filthiest pitchers in the league. He's currently the 6th favorite for the AL Cy Young at plus 1,500 at FanDuel Sportsbook. And I think he has a real chance. Now on to my filthiest relievers. Cionel Perez made some mechanics adjustments and had these fastballs. Cue the saxophone, Alexis Diaz had this slider. Ian Hamilton had these overpowering fastballs. Phil Maton had this 3,176 RPM curveball. Yoel Payams had this slider. Josh Winkowski had this nasty slider. Will Vest had this filthy changeup and slider. Will Smith got a sword with his slider. Tanner Scott had this vicious 2-time zone slider. Jimmy the Human Glitch Herget had this sick curveball. And I had someone on Twitter say that's the weirdest arm action they've ever seen. What do we call it? And the answer, of course, is the Uncle Rico. Gregory Soto had these overpowering fastballs from a slide step. Joe Kelly changed up his mechanics and had this changeup. I'd definitely fall down if I tried that. Devin Williams had this painted fastball and this UFO airbender, still one of the most amazing pitches in baseball. Yennier Cano absolutely dismantled Urshela here with his slider and 2-seamer, and then got the K-stare. Jordan Hicks had this filthy 90-mile-an-hour slider, and then this incredible 102-mile-an-hour fastball and 90-mile-an-hour slider overlay. Hitting is impossible. Aroldis Chapman had this overpowering 101-mile-an-hour fastball, and then this 104-mile-an-hour fastball and K-stare. Yes, Cano got his K-stare from Aroldis Chapman. And if you notice, that 104-mile-an-hour fastball was against Jake Cronenworth. And back in spring training of 2018, Chapman hit Cronenworth in the ribs with a fastball, and it left this absolute crater in him. And I think that fastball was only in the upper 90s. So then having to face 104 from the same dude? No thank you. But my filthiest reliever of the day yesterday was Clay Holmes, who had these total barrel-locking front door sinkers at 98 and 99 miles an hour with 20 inches and 18 inches of run. You think you're going to wear these and they end up in the zone. And I just showed you the utter devastation left by an upper 90s fastball when you get hit in the ribs. It's no wonder Belt froze on these. And now my pitching ninja moment of zen. It's Aaron Boone throwing his gum. That's some filthy movement, and Javi Baez is no match for it. And I also put a tail on it so you can see how much that thing moved. Do you think this gum was stickier than Domingo Herman's curveballs? Leave me your thoughts in the comments. What's up, everybody? My picks of the day today are a 3-leg parlay. I'm going to start out with Eduardo Rodriguez for 6 Ks or more, then take Sonny Gray for 6 Ks or more, and top it off with Spencer Strider for 9 Ks or more. What would your picks of the day be?